One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Mocha Mondays. I am your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, coming to you live right now in Seattle, Washington, the beautiful Pacific Northwest, here in my lovely prospecting studio. How are you this Monday morning? I hope you're doing well, keeping safe, staying out of the riffraff, as we like to say. And today we're going to be talking about shadow boxing and consciousness. You can find me every Monday morning, starting here on the Intuitive Prospector page. So a couple ways to do that is make sure to turn on the notifications. There's a little turn on notifications. You can subscribe to the page and join the almost 31,000 followers now of the page, which is fantastic if you're looking for spiritual transformations, psychic, mediumship, intuition, awareness, meditations, metaphysics, mindfulness, all of that good stuff. And if you just hit subscribe or like or share, the page will track that. But you want to turn on the notifications so you get notifications every time I'm live, whether it's Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, the Healing Cafe. You can also find me over on my YouTube channel and Instagram and TikTok, where I do a lot of spiritual takeout, where I do a lot of I come on and I do meditations. I talk about Qigong. This week I'll be talking about the pineal gland and a little exercise you can do with the thumb. Based on Qigong philosophy and Chinese medicine. But today I'm going to talk about consciousness. And like I said, the show is every Monday morning, or most Monday mornings if I'm not traveling, or if I don't have a good connection. But 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then wherever you're at in between, you can check the description for all the time zones from Hawaii to Italy to oh my gosh, to New York. We have listeners and followers from all around the planet. So good morning to you. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, because we're going to be talking about consciousness today, and something that came up for me while I was working out this morning. And if you're new to the show, let me know where you're from. We'll give you a shout out and say hi. Good morning to my team behind the scenes, tracking all the comments and monitoring any kind of riffraff or trolls or clickbaits, which we tend to find in the world of social media, unfortunately. If you want to learn more about me, just click the description field. There's marclainhart.com, or internet search Intuitive Prospector. But how it works is I'm usually influenced the morning of the show. So I sit here on my meditation mat, I get a cup of coffee, and then I kind of add the cream, and I look into my coffee, and I kind of see what the picture, I kind of see what the symbols, I kind of see what the pattern develops and looks like, and then that's what I talk about. But this morning when I was working out, I was doing a little bit of cardio boxing, and it kind of reminded me of shadow boxing and how we box with ourselves. And so this morning, for the next half hour, I'm going to just talk about consciousness. I'm going to talk about a couple theories and a couple of things that have really challenged me this last year and a half, my own shadow boxing with my what some would call the light side and the dark side, or the shadow work, shadow boxing, if you will. And then, of course, I'll have a numerology number for you, a positive mantra, and a crystal for you this week. But let's move into the magic of the moment. Just give yourself a round of applause for being here this morning. Let me reset the applause, just kind of get into the magic of the moment. And let's all give ourselves just a round of applause for being here. Feel that energy, feel that inspiration, feel that encouragement, and of course, coffee, and more coffee. So today I am proudly wearing my Gonzaga Bulldogs sweatshirt. And the reason that I'm wearing the sweatshirt today is because they started #1 in the basketball. So they're a college team out of Spokane, Washington, my hometown. And the reason I'm wearing the sweatshirt, it's actually going to tie in today's message about consciousness. And you never know where you're going to go once you start to transform and change. And Gonzaga has always been a very small Jesuit school in Spokane, very, very small. And I have been following Gonzaga since I was coming up in grade school, middle school, and high school, even in college. A very small Jesuit school. And they have, over time, have grown to become an elite men's basketball program and women's basketball. The women also won the championship. But this year they started out #1 in the season, #1 overall college team in the nation. They went 26-0. They're undefeated right now, and they finished the season #1. First time in a long time that has happened. So they're getting ready for the tournament, which starts on Thursday. Which I'm a big college. I'm a college basketball guy because I played, hoops pretty much my entire life until recently, until this thing called COVID hit, and then I stopped playing basketball. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise as I've gotten older. But what I wanted to say about, you never know where you're going and what consciousness and transformations can do for you. Because if you would have said 25 years ago when I was watching Gonzaga, John Stockton, famous NBA Hall of Famer basketball player, playing in this small, the capacity of the old stadium was actually literally an old metal dome, the Kennel. And I can't remember how many it set, maybe 2,500 people at most. But you jump to today, and they've got a nice McCarthy Center. It holds, I couldn't tell you how many it holds because I've been there in a long time, but it's an elite program. And so transformation and positivity and mindfulness can take you a long way on where you're going. So today I want to talk about shadow boxing and a lot of the shadow boxing we do for ourselves. Like this morning I was working out, working on my moves, protecting myself. And I realized a lot of times, especially this last year and a half, there was a lot of times I felt like I was punching myself. Now, I don't know about, everybody out there, but I felt like I was in a different reality. I felt like, maybe I was going a little bit crazy in the fact that I had friends and family members that were following and supporting ideologies that were based on misogyny and bigotry and racism and anti-Semitism and fascism. And I couldn't understand why people would follow that when it's blatantly right in their eyes, right in their faces. And it was hard for me to say, how can you not see what I'm seeing? And that part of that that growth for me was seeing what people will support regardless of, right or wrong, moral, immoral activities. And, a lot of it was the shadow boxing that we do with ourselves, because who's the one person you talk to the most in your life? It's yourself. So you have to tell yourself, what kind of thoughts and conversations are you having with yourself? Are they for the higher good? Are they positive? And I'll be honest, last year, I didn't have a lot of great conversations with myself because I was so disgruntled or angry or upset that, what I'm seeing, somebody else that was, some people that were very close to me, family, friends, saw a completely different way of being, supporting certain leaders, supporting certain ideologies, following rhetoric that was, abusive and demeaning and racist and fascist, and it just it was really hard for me to understand. But as I've sat with that for some time, I realized that's part of the shadow boxing of the light in ourselves and the darkness in ourselves. And it really comes down to a quote that I'm going to read from Carl Jung, who is the famous psychologist. And this is my article that I'm writing about shadow boxing, how we struggle with ourselves and how people can see differently than us, which is fine because it's from your own perspective, right? And spiritualism is the ability to shift your perspective. And trust me, I get a lot of different perspectives with the spiritual work I do, whether it's psychic, whether it's mediumship, whether it's metaphysics. There's a lot of people that come with their belief systems of the Bible and scripture. There's people that come to me with full belief and think that it's real, which it is real. But there are other people that come with, cynicism and skepticism and disbelief and, that are hurting and that are looking for answers, because that's what we're all really here doing, right? We're all here on planet Earth as explorers looking for, what's next? What is, what's the what I call this next decade of the Roaring 20s going to hold for us? And so the quote from Carl Jung, who talked about consciousness, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And as I was cardio boxing this morning, I realized there was a lot of pain that, a lot of us, I think, felt the last few years. A lot of transformations. The age of Aquarius started to take place back in 2019. I knew that 2020, from a numerology standpoint, was going to be a very tough, transformative year. Then you throw the pandemic on top of it. And now we're in the year of the 5 in numerology, which is a year of freedom, love, and adventure. And I said by June or May, we would start to see freedom from this COVID, more normalcy going back. I'm happy to say the schools here in Washington State are going to open in April. We're starting to see events start to open, vaccinations starting to roll out. Of course, you're always going to have the anti-vax, debates and conversations, kind of like you just had with the politics that we just went through. But at the same time, that is coming to consciousness through that pain, that, whether it's your belief system or you disagree with somebody, or maybe you've had a falling out this last year and a half, like I have with, like I said, with people I thought who are good people. I don't want to come across as being judgmental of them, but I don't want to be associated with people that, support bigotry, misogyny, racism, fascism. I don't want to be associated with people that support that ideology. And that's not being judgmental of them. They're free to choose who they want to follow and what ideologies they want to believe in, but it's setting your boundaries. And that's coming to consciousness as well. But in his quote, he said, there's no coming to consciousness without pain. And that's been very painful, to let go of relationships that once had meaning to me. And that's been something I've been struggling with, my own journey, my own pain for the last year and a half, some personal things that, some personal relationships that were lost or had ended, some things that I recall from my past from hypnotherapy, things that I had to come to terms with, my own pain. And a lot of what I share on my shows, or even the work I do as a spiritualist, is based on my own experiences that I've gone through and sharing that, but it doesn't mean that it's, it's going to be accepted by you, because it's our own perception of our experiences, or what I call solar adventures. But what it helped me to realize in the bigger picture of today's message is that pain has helped me to come to a higher consciousness of this world. And I knew this world was violent. I've always known that this world is chaotic and violent. I mean, it took my brother for, murder took my brother. Cancer took my brother. Cancer took my father. MS took my father-in-law. I've had a lot of loss in my life, and a lot of traumas and tragedies and a lot of pain. but I didn't understand why this was happening. Why do good things, or why do bad things happen to good people? You may ask yourself, or why is God punishing me? But people will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. And I think for years I didn't want to face my own soul. I was shadow boxing. I was staying in the light, but I was avoiding receiving those punches of the dark side of who I am. Because we all have a light side and we all have a dark side. If you follow Star Wars like I do, you know that there's the light and that there's the dark, and it's the balance between the two. We all make mistakes. That's why we're here to learn. I say life is learning from experience, but I also believe in fail. First attempt in learning. We should fail often. We should fail daily, because it helps us to grow. That's why they call it growing pains. That's why they call it life lessons. But it helps you to have a bigger consciousness. And with age also comes wisdom. And, you know, like I said, this last year, you may have felt like me, being in a different reality. It's like, are people seeing something different than I'm seeing? Have I slipped out of the matrix? Did I get unplugged? You can see that we're kind of getting back to a sense of normalcy, but you'll also realize that leadership does matter. Having a moral code does matter. Your words do matter. Your actions do speak sometimes louder than words. And treating people how you want to be treated does matter. It has a ripple effect. Words have energy. Energy can be contagious. And we saw a lot of chaos the last few years, especially here in the United States. But at the same time, now we've gone through that and we realize that's maybe not necessarily what we want. You know, and of course you can get into the whole political debates and the Democrats and the Republicans. The whole thing is a show. The whole thing's a circus. But when it steps on constitutionality, when it steps on rule of law, then you got to really stand up for what's right. And that's what I did last year. And there was a lot of people that, you know, took it as I was favoring one political party over another. I don't follow political parties. I'm not politically affiliated. I'm a constitutionalist. But when it's standing up for others, where it's standing up to a bully that's picking on somebody, or standing up for the rule of law, or standing up for democracy, standing up for the republic, I'm always going to be a Jedi. I'm always going to defend that. And that was hard because other people took it as, you know, picking a side. And it's unfortunate. And, you know, I feel I'm sorry if I ever offend anybody or I cause people pain. That's never my goal. That's never my intention. But it was, a lot of it was my own pain as well, kind of, you know, reaching out, if you will, keeping people away. And that's me coming to my higher consciousness. And I felt a huge shift this last year as well, because I was avoiding facing my own past pain, some of my family dynamics, family dysfunctions, things that I had grappled with for years. But what it does is one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness consciousness. And that's what Carl was saying. So I'll read the whole quote to you, and then this will maybe this will, you know, open a door for you, because I do believe that once one door closes, a new door of opportunity will open, and we have the right and the free will and the choice to walk through that. So there is no coming to consciousness without pain. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, in order to avoid facing their own soul. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness consciousness. So again, today's message is talking about consciousness and the importance of facing your own pain. Again, shadow boxing. We always want to stay in the light, and we never want to get hit by the dark side, but we do. And, you know, in metaphysics, you know, because I study a lot of metaphysics, I study a lot of different religions, I do a lot of different meditations, a lot of breath work, Wim Hof, Soma breath work, to understand who I am as a person, as a soul, as a being here in this time frame of consciousness. And in metaphysics, we talk about, there's a Greek historian, can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he talks about it's the ship of Theseus. And what it is, it's a thought experiment that raises the question of whether an object that has had all of its components replaced remains fundamentally the same object. So you may have heard of this in your philosophy courses. I know I was first introduced to this concept back in my early days of college in philosophy, and it's the ship of Theseus. And I have to say that I'm the same outer person. I'm a little bit older, maybe a little bit bigger from, you know, this COVID diet that I've been on, but at the same time, a lot of my components have been replaced internally. Things that have affected my heart, things that have affected my brain, things that have affected my belief system. And so I don't know if the theory is right or wrong. I'm just presenting it to say that I've gone through my own ship of thesis, if you will, my own experiment with, like I said, the loss, the trauma, my own near-death experience, my own out-of-body experience, OBEs, NDEs, studying what mediumship is, what is life after death, how life and consciousness continues after we die, having conversations with people that are no longer here but once lived. This can be very challenging to the brain. It can be very challenging to your belief system. It can be very challenging to your relationships, your friendships. People, will have opinions and judgments about you. But at the same time, this path for me started years ago, and I'm writing my book, and I'm writing my latest article about this, about consciousness and the pain. But I always come back to Rumi, and Rumi was a 12th century mystic who talked about the cure for the pain is the pain. And that has stuck with me almost my entire journey. And I remember when this journey started, I remember Lao Tzu, in his description that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I've taken a single step years ago that's brought me to this point to realize I'm still the same ship, I'm still the same vessel externally, but I'm a new vessel internally, because a lot of the old me has been replaced. Arrogance, ego, confidence. I would even say, even early in my early years as young, kind of that narcissistic behavior, which is a lot. It runs a lot in my family. That was a learned behavior that I was raised with. Always prove yourself and be able to, kind of be a show off, if you will. And I've had to learn how to change that. Now, of course, I've had to set boundaries and love some of my family from a distance, and that's been painful. But that is part of my transformation, because once you transform, once you start to discover that diamond within, and that's what I teach on a lot of times: dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover that diamond that is within. Once you discover that diamond, your transformation takes place in your relationships and your career, and who you are changes, because you're reaching a higher state of consciousness. And it's kind of like, it's very similar to the caterpillar to the butterfly, but it's through the great struggle of the cocoon phase that the butterfly finally emerges and chooses to fly or chooses not to fly, because it's the sharpening of the wings within the cocoon that allows the butterfly to take flight. So, the ego will do anything to protect itself. I can tell you that in my journey of mindfulness, trying to be more humble in life, but also, don't mistake humbleness and kindness for weakness, because people will prey upon that. And that's something else I had to learn this last year. I do a lot of inspirational work, a lot of positivity work, a lot of positive living, inspired living radio with my podcast show. But if anytime I stood up to something like bullying, standing up to racism, standing up to misogyny, standing up to bigotry, standing up to anything that had lacked a moral direction or stepped on our Constitution, our democracy, boy, people just came out of the woodwork and had their opinions about that. And that was also another life lesson for me. I will still, speak truth to power, because that is, your right as a citizen to do that. But it just was, until you've gone through it, now you kind of experience it and go, wow, okay, people are going to see obviously a different side of the coin than you, even if it's immoral, even if it's wrong. People will choose to follow that path. And history's taught us that. I just had to experience it, I guess, for my first, in the world of social media. But, it goes back to Michelangelo. When people show you who they are, believe them. And remember, apologies without changed behavior is manipulation. And once you're no longer once you're no longer able to be manipulated, you become difficult. So just remember these things, because that's part of your own transformation. That's part of your higher self. That's part of your consciousness ascending. I always think of it like an eagle flying. I look out my studio window here, and there's two eagles here. And they're always flying. And I always see the crows and the seagulls always coming up underneath and pecking at them, always coming at them. But then the eagle just kind of does its own thing. It doesn't really pay attention to them. And then it just goes higher. It goes higher because it can actually, with its wingspan, it can actually go higher. The air gets thinner, and it actually can breathe in higher elevations, where the crows and the seagulls cannot. So they drop down. That's why when you see the eagle ascend, that's a reminder of consciousness to always ascend, because you're going to have the seagulls, you're going to have the crows, you're going to have people in your life that pick at you, that try to bring you down. Misery loves company, all of those concepts. And that's something that this last year and a half, I've really had to break free of. It's like a thick tar that holds on to you. If you ever seen the Spider-Man movies, his alter ego was the, Venom. And that's that thick, dark, gooey stuff that we have to get rid of. So, practice meditation, practice Qigong, practice yoga, do your prayers, have gratitude for what your life is, repair relationships if you can. And if you can't, love people from a distance. You can always have love in your heart for others. There's always forgiveness, but that doesn't mean that you get walked on either or get taken advantage of. You, again, love people from a distance. Fasting from people can be healthy. There's many things that you can find the light in, always knowing that you're going to carry that dark side with you. So, it's an interesting quote, something I just wanted to share with you today as we get ready for the Healing Cafe. But again, this ship of thesis that I am is I have changed a lot of who I am in the inside. People still see the outside of who Marc was. Maybe you knew me young, at a younger age in a different way. That's great. But at the same time, when you ascend like the eagle, you're going to change and you're going to ascend, if you will. It's the alchemy of the process of changing who you are from when you were born to how you were raised, to your middle life, to your elderly life, and then you transfer back into consciousness, into energy, into spirit, into whatever your belief system is. So there is no coming to consciousness without pain. So remember that on your journey ahead for this week. Again, this is Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, where we have a cup of coffee, we chat, we philosophize. Today's more about philosophy on consciousness and pain, the cure for the pain, addressing the dark side of who you are, the shadow boxing, if you will. All great concepts. So I wanted to give you a couple passages and then we'll get ready for the Healing Cafe, where you can ask me questions. You can come on and have a chat with me. It could be psychic, could be mediumship. You never know what we're going to get. And I do that for about an hour, from about 8:30 to 9:30, sometimes 10 o'clock, depending on how I'm feeling. I don't have any events today. I usually have another event, but that is not until next week. But I wanted to give you a little inspiration. I got a little book here called Together is Better, a little book of inspiration. It's by Simon Sinek, and it says this: our greatest test may not come from the path we travel to success. Our greatest test is what we do with success once we find it. So what is your success? What does success mean to you? It's different for everybody, especially in the physical world, especially in a world where capitalism reigns true, where we're the only species that pays to live here. So success can be measured on what you have. But I look at success as the ability to transform and to find that diamond within, because remember, if there's no pressure from life, we remain, pieces of coal. No pressure, no diamond. So your cards for this week: I allow myself to have personal boundaries. This is part of your consciousness. I allow myself to have personal boundaries. Again, masks, gates, locks. See how the lock's a heart? Sometimes in order to protect your heart, you have to love people from a distance. Doesn't mean you have to have relationships with them anymore. And I've had to do that myself. But, allow myself to have personal boundaries. Your number for this week is the number 8 to manifest what you want. 8 is infinity. And the color pink, which is all affiliated with love and the heart. And then I picked the opal for your crystal. So if you have an opal, I don't think I have any opals around here in the studio. I do not. But the opal, the reason I picked it is because it's a fine vibration stone. So an opal it can be a clear opal. This isn't an opal, but it kind of looks like this. But the reason I picked it today is because it enhances cosmic consciousness and it induces psychic and mystical visions, stimulating originally and dynamic creativity. So that's why I picked the opal crystal for you today. So if you want to check out the opal, if you have an opal, wear it, have it around you. Very important for the journey, because it can enhance your visions, your dreams, where you're going for your higher consciousness. Because again, if you're starting to come into consciousness, you're usually going to be tested with pain, loss, tribulation, trials and tribulations, as scripture talks about. It's about how you choose to rise above that, like the eagle, or choose to descend or devolve and go back down with the lower vibration and people that are around you. So it's not an easy journey. It can be a very tough journey, but in the end, the transformation is worth it. And you find that diamond within. So thanks for joining me today. We'll get ready for the Healing Cafe. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Again, I won't be on the air this week. I'll be back next week for Inspired Living Radio. We're going to have the owner of Best American Psychics talking about doing the work in modern day as a psychic, as a medium, working with spiritualism, working with many different people out there and many different beliefs in social media. It'll be a fun show. So that'll be next Wednesday. You can check out my latest article coming out here soon about consciousness and the pain that we go through to achieve a higher consciousness. And again, if you go to marclainhart.com, that's where you're kind of one-stop shop for anything spiritual, articles, links, book and reading, my development group, anything that you're interested in and prospecting for. And of course, every Monday morning, Metaphysical Mocha Mondays, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to turn that notification button on or subscribe to the page, or over on my YouTube channel, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. Tumble. I don't know. I'm all over the place. So looking forward to prospecting with you. We'll get ready for the Healing Cafe right now. Until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate, and most importantly, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live, and discover that diamond within you. We'll see you next week for Metaphysical Mocha. Have a great week, everybody. Namaste.